But you go to those movies, and I used to always love the cowboy western. Be like a there might be like a half hour skit of a cowboy western. Then next week it'd be a continuation and continuation and continuation, like a series, you know, or Batman and Robin would be the series. I was always my favorite was watching the western cowboys in Texas, and these guys are going to go to the Mexican border, right, and go to Nuevo Laredo. I always said to myself, man, that would be nice to go down to Mexico. I was always, I don't know, I always had an affinity towards Mexican people, even at 12 years old, 10 years old, you know. And I told my mother that, I said, you know, I said that I was going to marry your mama. I said, you know, it's just, I guess I just was made to be a Mexican. And she thought it was kind of not funny. She said, well, you know, I said, well, mama, it's what it's going to be, you know, so. But, uh, but you know, back in, like I say, the movies were our way of doing things. We didn't have a place to go on weekends. We just went to a movie and then hitchhiked down, hitchhiked back. Sunday morning, got up, hitchhiked to church, hitchhiked back. You know, that just was a way of getting around. Hitchhiking back then was common. You know, when I first got my first car, I mean, you'd be riding on the road, there'd be somebody hitchhiking, you'd pick them up. You didn't worry about somebody, you know, being a bad person. You know, I mean, they needed a ride. You know, and I remember my hitchhiking days. I mean, you never had a fear of somebody picking you up and being a bad person. You know, you trusted everybody. You didn't lock your doors. You didn't lock your car. You left your keys in your car. I mean, you didn't worry about something being stolen. People didn't steal things back then. You know, nowadays you got to lock your cars and lock your houses and things like that. You know, in the movies, you know, you got to be careful. In the movies that take you, you can't take your kids to any movie you want to nowadays. Back then you could. There was no movie code to go by. If there's a movie playing, well, it's going to be a good, wholesome movie. You can bring your family to it. Today you can't do that. You can't get your kids watch TV today because there's such a bunch of bad stuff out there being broadcast, you know. But at the same time, you go to the movies and after that phase goes by and the radio and you get the next thing, TV comes along, right? So along comes TV. Probably my first experience watching TV would be in the 1950, 51, 52 time frame. And the reason I say it's 3 years is because we didn't have a TV at the house, but our school, our high school, I graduated in 53. And our high school and the video, they didn't call it video back then, they called it some communications department. They teach kids how to run radios and how to, you know, use radio, how to speak on radio and so forth. And they had a TV set. And in the fall, in October, in the September, October, when the World Series would come on, you know, my one TV we knew of was in the school, right? And so the school got out at 3 o'clock afternoon, there'd be a World Series game on. We'd run down to the communications room, and they probably had 15 seats, 20 seats in there. There'd be 100 people in there. I crammed in there watching this little TV, like this big, black and white, snow. And it was hooked to an antenna on the top of the roof, and the wind blowing. Every time the wind blew the antenna, the pitcher would come in and come out again. The pitcher would throw a ball, and you'd be so much snow you could hardly see the ball moving. But TV, you're watching TV, you're actually watching people moving on it. It was incredible. You know, we just couldn't get over it. And of course, then that was in 51, 52. After we graduated, of course, people started getting their own TVs in their houses, and the TV back then was you might get one channel. And if you live in a city, you might get 2 or 3 channels, but you had to get up and change the channel, change the volume every time you change the channel. And not only did you change your channel, you had to take and change your antenna. The antenna was mounted on the roof of your house. You had a rotor on the antenna. So they'd be mounted on the roof of your house, and then the rotor and the antenna would turn. You had control on top of your TV. You turn your channel to, say, channel 3. You turn the rotor to northeast or where it might be. You had to mark where they belong, you know. And the wind blows, it would lose your picture, you know. But black and white. It was black and white. Saturday night would be the biggest night on TV. Saturday and Sunday Sunday night was primetime TV. But Saturday night would be like wrestling matches. People watched wrestling back in the 60s and the 50s. As fake as wrestling is today, it was the same way back then. It was just regular wrestling match, the punch, body slams. Today you don't get all the. Today you got much more sophisticated, gymnastics with it than they had back then. You wouldn't see a guy leap off the top of the ropes back then because they didn't know how to take the falls back then. But Saturday night would be, and they had the other thing called a show of shows. It'd be like a almost like a talent scout show. I mean, it'd be different acts on the singing, dancing, comedians, and all that stuff, magicians and things like that. So that'd be a big night on a Saturday night. Then Sunday night would be your basic Ed Sullivan shows on Sunday nights, and therefore our first glimpse of the Beatles. I remember you probably seen those clips yourself, and the Beatles were Ed Sullivan show of shows.
Oh yeah.
And we watched that live. And back then it was nothing but live TV. If a guy got on TV and made a mistake, you saw the mistake. I mean, that was it. I mean, it just ad-lib it, go right through it. And the Beatles and Elvis. It was incredible to watch the Beatles. I mean, they come into this country and it was broadcast for weeks ahead of time. They're going to be here in a certain day. Ed Sullivan was going to have them on there. And Ed Sullivan, the show of shows. His Ed Sullivan show, telescopes. But just before you got the Beatles, we still had black and white TV, and people would go out and make a color TV out of their own TV. They go out and they buy this a film, looked like Saran wrap, but it's a little thicker. It'd be like a clear in the middle, a tinted green on top and tinted red on the bottom, or vice versa, or you stick it onto your tube and you had color TV, right? And it was the biggest fad going. You had color TV in the house, man. But that was our experience with TVs, and it's kind of crazy. But I first come out of school in '53, and I was had going with my draft notice. And I was. I guess I got back up a couple of years. In 1949, I had my surgery on my lung. I lost a lung, part of a lung surgery at 14 years old, 1949. And when I came out of high school in 1953.
Did they ever tell you what the cause was?
Back then, they call it walking pneumonia. They just today, I'm not sure what they call it today. I'm not sure if they do the same procedures today. They may have medicines that could take care of it. But back then, they had you take your right lobe has 3 lobes. Your left lung has 2 lobes, and they took out the lower left lobe, so half your lung is gone. And the other lobe expands to a point where it kind of fills in, not 100%, but it does. Well, when I got my draft notice in 1953 to go into service, I already applied to go in the Navy. And I got on, I had to take a physical for the Army in the meantime. And I said, "What's that scar?" I said, "Don't." I said, "You ain't going into service. And you got to call your doctor first." They called the doctor, and he said, "No, you don't go." So I got a 4F, which I would have gone to Korea and fought in the Korean War. And I said, "Well, it's okay with me. I don't want to go to Korea." But then the Vietnam War was coming along, and that was in the 60s, early 60s. I still blame Kennedy for that one. He put our Green Berets in there to help them, right? And they had expanded from there. Now everybody blames it on Johnson. I blame it on Kennedy. Started. He didn't start the war, obviously, but he started the assistance with the Green Berets to train these South Vietnamese people. And
You want to take a break?
yeah, here comes a baby.
You come say hi, Stella.
Sure, Daddy, what's in your pocket?
What you got?
Oh, well, thanks. Left me out. Oh, it's not.
You got some water? Want some water? What do you think?
What's in your pocket, Mama? Show Daddy. What's in your pocket?